Have you ever walked away from a conversation feeling like you lost without even knowing how? No shouting, no threats, no obvious lies. Just a strange feeling that somehow you agreed to something you never wanted. You apologized for something that wasn't your fault. You doubted yourself. You changed your mind. And the person on the other side barely raised their voice. That's because the most dangerous manipulation doesn't look like manipulation. It looks like kindness, confidence, concern, even love. And by the end of this video, you'll start noticing signals that have been hiding in plain sight your entire life. The scary part? Once you see them, you can't unsee them. Imagine two people sitting across from each other. One is speaking, the other is simply listening. Who has the power? Most people would point to the speaker, but psychology often points somewhere else. Power doesn't always belong to the person talking. Sometimes it belongs to the person controlling what gets said. Manipulation begins long before someone convinces you of anything. It begins by quietly shaping the environment where your decisions are made. Think about a magician. The trick isn't in making something disappear. The trick is making you look somewhere else. Manipulators do the same thing. They don't always change reality. They change your attention. And once they control your attention, they begin controlling your conclusions. Here's the first signal almost nobody notices. They answer questions you never asked. Suppose you ask someone a simple question. Where were you last night? Instead of answering directly, they immediately say, "You don't trust me anymore?" Notice what just happened. The conversation instantly shifted. Your question disappeared. Now you're defending yourself instead. This is called emotional redirection. Instead of responding to the issue, they redirect your emotions. And emotions are much easier to control than facts. The next signal is even more subtle. Pay attention to how often someone makes you feel guilty for having normal boundaries. Manipulative people make boundaries feel selfish. There's a reason this works. Human beings hate disappointing others. Our brains evolved inside small tribes. Being rejected once could mean losing protection, food, or even survival. Today, that same ancient fear still exists. Someone doesn't have to threaten you. They only have to make you feel like a bad person. And suddenly, you start saying yes to things you wanted to refuse. Now, here's a manipulation signal that's almost invisible. False urgency. Decide now. This offer ends tonight. If you really cared, you'd answer immediately. Urgency shuts down thinking. Your brain has two modes. One reacts. The other reflects. Manipulators want the first one because people make worse decisions when they're rushed. Have you ever bought something expensive only to regret it the next day? That's rarely because the product changed. It's because your brain finally had time to catch up. The next signal hides inside compliments. At first, that sounds impossible. Compliments are good, right? Usually, but not always. Imagine someone constantly telling you, "You're the only person who understands me. No one else is as smart as you. I've never met anyone like you." It feels wonderful until one day they add, "So why won't you help me?" The compliment wasn't free. It was an investment. Some compliments are simply emotional loans. Eventually, the manipulator expects repayment. Real appreciation asks for nothing. Manipulation often comes with invisible conditions. Now, let's talk about confusion. Healthy conversations create clarity. Manipulative conversations create fog. You explain exactly what happened. They somehow turn the discussion into 10 different topics. Now you're talking about something that happened 3 years ago. Then another person gets mentioned. Then another problem appears. An hour later, you've forgotten why the conversation even started. Confused people are easier to control because confusion creates dependence. If reality becomes complicated enough, people begin trusting whoever sounds most certain, which leads us to one of the oldest manipulation tactics ever discovered: confidence without evidence. Some people speak with absolute certainty. Every sentence sounds final. Every opinion sounds like fact. But certainty is not proof. In fact, psychological studies repeatedly show that people often mistake confidence for competence. The loudest answer feels correct, even when it's completely wrong. That's why charismatic people can influence crowds so easily. Not because they're always right, because certainty feels safe. Your brain loves certainty, especially during uncertainty. Here's another signal. Watch how someone reacts when you disagree. Healthy people become curious. Manipulative people become personal. Instead of challenging your idea, they challenge you. You're too sensitive. You're overthinking. You always do this. Notice the pattern. The focus quietly moves away from the discussion toward your identity, because attacking your confidence is easier than defending their argument. Over time, you begin questioning yourself, and that's exactly the goal. Now let's talk about silence. Earlier, we learned that silence can be powerful, but silence also has a dark side. Sometimes people deliberately ignore messages, delay replies, disappear without explanation. Not because they're busy, because uncertainty creates emotional imbalance. The less predictable someone becomes, the more attention your brain gives them. It's called intermittent reinforcement. It's the same psychological principle used in slot machines. You never know when the reward is coming, which makes you check again and again and again. Predictable kindness builds trust. Unpredictable kindness builds obsession. The difference changes lives. Here's another signal hidden inside everyday conversations. Someone constantly reminds you of everything they've done for you. I drove you home. I helped you last year. I was always there for you. Gratitude is healthy. Keeping score isn't. Relationships aren't accounting systems. Real generosity doesn't come with invoices. Manipulation often does. Now, imagine you're arguing with someone. Halfway through, they suddenly become the victim. They cry. They say you've hurt them. They remind you how difficult their life has been. Again, their pain may be completely real, but timing matters. Ask yourself one simple question. Does this explain the situation or distract from it? That's one of the easiest ways to spot emotional manipulation. Another overlooked signal is isolation. Manipulative people rarely say, "Don't see your friends." Instead, they say, "They don't really understand you. They're jealous. I just don't." Your world becomes smaller and theirs becomes bigger. The fewer perspectives you hear, the easier it becomes for one person to define your reality. This is why healthy relationships encourage independence. Manipulative ones quietly discourage it. Now, here's perhaps the most dangerous signal of all. They make you doubt your own memory. You clearly remember something happening. They confidently deny it. That never happened. I never said that. You're imagining things. Eventually, you stop trusting yourself. When someone controls your memory, they begin controlling your reality. And once reality becomes negotiable, almost anything becomes possible. But here's something important. Not every uncomfortable conversation is manipulation. People make mistakes. People communicate poorly. People react, and your world becomes smaller.